Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for your time. Super early, so we're happy to be here, and we appreciate everyone coming in and everyone online. Will you be monitoring as well online?
Yes.
So my name is Tribble. I'm the Enterprise Regional Director at Instructure. Been here for about 3.5 years now, over 3.5 years. I got my start in community colleges, so I always like this space. So I worked for the Board of Regents in Louisiana, the Louisiana Community Technical College System. I built online and adult learning programs. I've taught and taken courses on pretty much everything. I've got an MA in literature, which I taught at the community college level. And once I taught on campus for the first time, I decided I wanted to work there. And about 2 years later, I did. And there's a lot of us with that story, and that's kind of what makes us special. And Carrie's got a very, very similar story. Carrie?
Hi, everyone. Carrie Sheridan from Massachusetts. I was a campus technologist for about 15 years before I started working for Instructure. And I managed classroom technology like projectors and that sort of thing, as well as software applications and web development. And I just started working with LMSs. And I've actually been on your side of the table a few times back in the WebCT days and picking LMSs and doing it. Happy to be here.
So we got this vendor plan from Stephanie. So we're going to do about an hour of demonstration to start. I'm going to do a few slides at the beginning just to kind of set the stage. And then we're going to have an hour for Q&A, which we view as really good flexible time to dive into some specific features or tool sets that you guys want to look at. So I want to keep that in mind. And we'll always pull up the agenda just to give us kind of a drive through this. We'll start with, onboarding a course, getting that in there, how to orient yourself in Canvas, what assessment looks like, all those features that we want to hit as we walk through Canvas. But what makes us a little bit different, that's kind of where we'll start with, who we are and why we do what we do and why people like Carrie and I have decided to work for Canvas. And so, like I said, I got my start in community colleges. We've had a little bit of a relationship here in Nebraska as well. We're in a couple of community colleges here. Crichton's on Canvas. The UN system's on Canvas as well. And why Canvas for a community college? Well, we think from what we heard and from the notes that I had from previous rep who worked with you guys in our discussions with Stephanie, it was helping the user experience a little bit, giving you guys an improved feature set. There were some tools out there that we wanted to make sure of. And to take a look at flexible systems that support kind of the different things that community colleges do. I mean, that spans everything from adult learners to community outreach type projects, to the different ways that people are learning technical skills where you're actually doing something in person. There are lots of different use cases here that we want to address with Canvas. And we do that in 3 very specific ways. And I'm going to walk through each of those so you kind of understand, again, why we are Canvas and why we've grown quickly over the past few years. We start with reliability. That's kind of the base of what we do. So we're one of the only 100% cloud native LMSs. There's a lot of benefits to that. So for instance, we're all on the same system. All of our users, there are 2,000, 2,500 now, schools on Canvas across the globe. Every single one of those institutions is on the same version of Canvas. So you guys are on Moodle right now. There are 4 or 5 different kinds of Moodle. Some people are probably still running 1.0, 1.2. We are just Canvas. So just like LinkedIn or Google, when you kind of log in and get the same experience, you're going to get the same LinkedIn experience as I do. It's the same thing with Canvas. It's the same thing for 25 million users out there. That helps with things like support. Our support is very, very good. Our uptime, also very good as well. We're hosted on Amazon Web Services. So we put this at the top of what we are, in this case, the foundation of what we do, but this kind of allows everything else to happen. Security, for instance, that's a big thing, especially with cloud technology when you're not hosting your own information, your own data. So we do open security audits every single year to make sure that we don't have any of these user issues out there that we see. And we have about a 99.99% uptime. Usually the 12-month run rate is somewhere above this. Contractually, we're at 99.9, but we're usually above this right now. And you can always get a sense of that. Even right now, you can go to status.instructure.com and see what our current uptime is. We don't hide anything. We're a very, very open company. We'll talk about that in just a second. It also helps with support as well in terms of are users using the same system. So when someone finds a problem out in California because they're on Canvas, that might be the problem that you're going to see. Everyone's kind of there motivated to do the same thing and use the same system and see the same issues that happen. We also build technical tools that help with that. So we don't have to get too technical here, but what this does is automatically basically scale up and down based on your usage rates. So we predict what's going to happen. Your freshmen come in at first day of classes is going to happen. We're going to predict that. We're going to make sure that you have more resources in our system so that you're not getting slowed down. It's not going down to the first day of classes and everyone is doing their homework at the same time. We do this automatically, and that's just a part of the system. It's a part of being on campus. It's a part of the tools that we built to host Canvas. We're also extremely open, and we put that kind of at the core of what we do, and that we hope that speaks to Moodle institutions as well. So our software is open source. You can download Canvas and run it as you will. We publish that content with our updates every 3 weeks, etc. But we also have open LTI, open API standards. We have schools who plug in, build, play with Canvas pretty frequently. We are LTI compliant. Common cartridge is the export that you take from Moodle to get your information into Canvas, to get your content in there. So we focus on open source, open standards, open education. As I mentioned, we're an open company. So you can actually go see our product releases right now. You don't have to be Canvas compliant. You can see our status right now. We keep you updated throughout time. Your admins know where the system is, what's going on if anything happens. So we focus on being open as well. And that means we have, actually, this is an old graph. I thought I put the new one in here. We're above 250 or even 300 apps. I think we're at 300. We get about 2 apps a week. 2 to 3 apps per week that work well in Canvas. And a lot of these are going to be the things you're familiar with. As an O365 school, we integrate actually very tightly with Office 365 in OneNote. But there's also, your publishers like McGraw-Hill, your cloud tools like Dropbox, video tools like Vimeo, Wikipedia. These are all plug and play directly into Canvas. You can actually, even as an instructor, kind of mold your classes and use different tools out there that help your course and help your learning objectives. So we focus on that. And that's a big part of being open. Just some stats about that. We have about 20% of our active users have at least one of these things installed. 96% have one admin install app. Usually that comes in the space of your publishers and whatnot. However, with being open, being reliable, we understand that's kind of allows us to do a few different things. But what we really want to do at the end of the day is save everyone time. Your administrators, your students, your faculty. We want to increase engagement and the quality of what you're doing and save you time so that you can do what you do best. And that's improve learning and help your students succeed. So what we do is track some of this data through adoption metrics. So we go into campuses, a couple of these were Moodle institutions, what their usage was on campus before Canvas and what their usage was after Canvas, right? So we always see an improvement because we focus on being a really simple system to use. We focus on modern web design. We do have both student and teachers apps that come included in Canvas as well. And we focus on saving time for the everyday user. We see this at a school like Dunwoody. So Dunwoody College of Technology is a community college, technical college in Minnesota, and they had very similar challenges. The legacy system wasn't efficient. It wasn't a good student experience. It took a lot of time. It was a little clunky. They were actually on Moodle for them. That was their word. So what their goal was in their evaluation was to find modern technology that saved time so that they could help improve the user experience and to make sure that they were doing the right things for student success. That included data, it included better support, it included better tool sets that were easier to use, and they focused that all on engagement. They transitioned in late 2014, early 2015. And this is what Michael White, Dean of Applied Management, said. It was a really good story for them. For instance, they came into the process expecting the migration to take over a year. That was their plan. They were finished in somewhere between 4 and 5 weeks with Canvas, and it was Moodle to Canvas transition. So it's important that we kind of highlight schools like this. I passed over some references. I can pass over more references so you guys can talk, because these are the stories we like to tell with customers like Dunwoody. And they have had a great experience in Canvas. They're happy to talk to anyone. And again, they had a great implementation as well with very, very similar tools. So all of that says we hope to focus on those things in the demo. You'll see some of that. Before Carrie gets started, do I have any other questions on Canvas, who we are, why we build LMSs? Perfect. All right, so we'll get started with the demo.
All right, thanks everybody. So I'm going to actually start our demo today from the student perspective, and we're going to start on mobile. And one of the reasons why we like to share mobile right from the get-go is because our research has found that a lot of students actually access Canvas in their courses on the learning management system from their mobile device first. So a lot of times they've done their registration, they've gotten an email with a class confirmation, and they fire up their LMS app, and that's where they're looking at the syllabus for the first time, get a sense of the course structure. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the student perspective. We're going to do that through a mobile app. All of our mobile apps are free, and we don't charge the institution any money to access your LMS on mobile. It's your LMS. You should be able to get it on any device, anywhere, anytime, no matter who you are. So all of our mobile apps are free, and during your evaluation, we would encourage you to go ahead and try out those mobile apps too, whether you're an Android or a PC or an iOS person. I'm going to do this on a tablet on my Apple iPad just because of the screen real estate. Not really. So my student app, once I've downloaded it, it's just a click away. I'm going to log in as Guy. So I'm logged in as student Guy Burnett. And Guy is taking 2 classes this semester. He's taking American History and Intro to Geology, so you can see those on the left-hand side of his tablet. There's a couple of different things that Guy can do. He can certainly dive into a class if he wants to, but maybe Guy's taken a class with us before and he knows that he needs to set up his notification preferences. So he can go into his settings up at the top left-hand corner. You'll notice that he has a couple options there. He can manage some files. He can show or hide his grades. But he's going to click his settings area and manage his notifications. So notifications on Canvas, oops, let's try to stop turning. Notifications on Canvas are a way for the LMS to talk to you, the end user, about what's happening in your class. So whether you're a student or a teacher, you can actually customize notifications so that the app is sending you information about what's going on. As a student, what we see is a lot of users want to know what's happening as far as any due date changes on assignments, any new assignments that have been added, any assignments that have been graded. So it's just simply toggling on or off the options. So Guy might want to know anytime new content is added to his courses, he toggles that on. Anytime something's been graded, you can toggle that on if there's a new course announcement, etc. So it's just turning on and off these different toggle switches. Now for a faculty member, faculty can do the same thing, which is fantastic. So if I'm teaching 3 or 4 classes a semester, I probably don't want to be notified every time the student submits an assignment because that would just be way too many. So Canvas gives you options to say, send me right away, which would be every submission, or send me a daily digest at the end of the day or the end of the week. So I can just kind of see at a glance what's going on, take a temperature check, and move on with my day. You can actually customize where these notifications come. So if you're using the app, it could be a pop-up, like your other apps talk to you. If like there's a new Instapot recipe on Pinterest, you want to pop up. So you can actually control, do I want this popped up through my app? Do I want to get an email? Or you can even choose to get a text message to your phone, which students really like. And we actually see students will have multiple options turned on. So they'll say, yes, send me an email so I know it's definitively there and I can file it in my email. Also send me a text message showing no right away as I'm walking from one building to the next. So students actually do use these quite a bit. So notifications are part of your user's profile. All users have that, and it's just simply enabling when and how you want Canvas to notify you about different things going on in the class. There are lots of ways to know what's happening in your classes without having to pick a class, go in, look for the Dropbox or the assignment, see what's going on. Canvas surfaces information right at the top, so it's less clicky, which just means it saves time, saves everybody time. So on the bottom here, it's kind of hard to see because of that zoom thing. There's some icons there at the bottom. I have dashboard, which is what we're looking at right now, and then I have calendar. And calendar is a calendar, as you would expect it to be. But what's unique and special about the Canvas calendar is some of the visualizations here will give you to help you quickly identify. So notice the dates on the far side that have little bubbles under them. That indicates to me that there's an activity on that date. So just visually, my eyes go right to where those little bubbles are. And when I click on that date, it pops up on the right-hand side. And the data that's in that little message says, this is a graded discussion for my early American history class, and it was due on February 16th, right? So I can see that right there. Again, I don't have to pick a class, go in and look for that information. It's really 1 or 2 clicks away. And not only can I see what I have due and when it's due and what class it's for, I can actually do it right then and there with 1 click. So I can actually pop open this discussion. I can read the prompt. So the instructor is giving me this nice prompt to think about everything I've learned this week and put my own interpretation on it. And then in the top right-hand corner, I just click the little reply button. And now I can actually add text and do my reply right from my phone. I don't have to go to a computer to do this. I can do it right from my phone or my tablet. And because I'm using my phone or my tablet, I can use the technology that I have in my hand, which means I can click this microphone button and I can actually just speak my response, and Canvas will enter it into the discussion period. And then I can post that. And now I've made my discussion post. So imagine being able to do that in the cafeteria, at the bus stop, in my car before I walk in the building, before I leave campus to go to my job. I'm using the technology I have in my hand to interact with my course content, complete my required work without having to stop and get a full-featured traditional computer experience, right? I can use the device I already have and that I use every day for everything. Pretty powerful. So not only can I do discussions and that type of thing, I can also actually submit papers. So here's another view. So I have calendar at the bottom. I also have a to-do list, and this is another area. So no 2 people really navigate the web the same way. And no 2 people use their apps the same way. Like Sean and I both have iPads, but they're completely different experiences because he has his own selection of games and apps, and I have my own selection of games and apps. So even though we use similar devices and we use similar software, the experience is different. So Canvas tries to make it really easy for a user to find stuff they need, however they prefer to find it. You build it once. You just build an assignment, slap a due date on it, and the students can find it in a variety of ways. It's kind of like a kaleidoscope, right? So this paper here, again, this is locked because it's in a module. But these activities, again, I don't have to like stop and go out to the course to actually do the work. I can actually do it right from my device, including uploading an assignment. Notifications, as I mentioned earlier, you can actually turn on notifications so they come to your phone or whatever. This would actually archive that log. So if you did see that macaroni and cheese and spot recipe and you swiped it away, and then 3 hours later you're trying to figure out what you want to make for dinner and you're like, where did that go? Canvas will keep an archive. You can always go back and find that information. And then the last tool is the inbox. And the inbox is where I would find messages and information about my courses from my instructors, my TAs, whoever I'm working with. And again, I can just interact with them back and forth right here using the device that I have in my hand. Any questions about that student experience and kind of navigating around? Let's take a quick look at a course. I'm going to pop open my American History course. So again, I'm just looking at it on a tablet. So this is just a tablet view. It's completely responsive design. So we really designed the mobile app to render the Canvas content appropriate for that screen size and that type of device. So you have your tablet apps and your phone apps, and it renders it properly. You can certainly look at this on a mobile browser, and it will scale responsibly. So as you can see, instructors can build content pages that have rich content, that have images, hyperlinks, even embedded video. And this video will play right inside of Canvas. It's not going to kick the student out to YouTube or Vimeo or wherever that video is hosted. So students are consuming this media right in context with all the other learning content that's in the course, which is really nice. A module in Canvas includes all different types of content. So you can see maybe a little bit the iconography there. Zoom, you're being invasive. So the iconography there, I see a content page, I see a discussion, I see some assignments, a little rocket ship is a quiz. We keep going back and forth on that icon. It's a Q, no, it's a rocket ship. And a hyperlink to some other documents there. So the iconography is fairly familiar in most web situations. And again, it's just kind of navigating through the different types of content. Canvas adds a forward and back button on the bottom there, so the students can just like kind of click through. So when you're designing your course, you can build a learning pathway, and students can navigate through that pathway pretty efficiently. We'll show you how to build that when we look at the teacher side. So again, from a student perspective, students have control over their personal settings, including notifications. They can see all of their courses. They have a great calendar. They can start submitting work right. Clicking on one that's locked. It's locked because of adaptive or selective release. Right, in this case. They can complete quizzes even right from their device. So they can pretty much do everything they need to do right from their device if they want to. Let's pop out to the desktop. Is there a way to hide this little guy? So I'm logged in as an instructor now, and as you can see, it looks very similar to what Guy saw. So I'm teaching 2 classes, Guy's taking 2 classes. I see both my classes. You saw those on the iPad. Very similar experience, which is great because it's not jarring. It's not like the students or you have to learn 2 different interfaces. They're very similar in general concept and design. So on the app, we saw tools on the bottom for the calendar, the to-do list. Here, our to-do list is right here on the right side of the dashboard. What's great about this to-do list is that for students, what do I have to do? Like, what do I have to turn in? What am I responsible for doing this week? For instructors, what do I have to do? Like, what do I have to grade? Where should I put my attention? So if I'm teaching a class of 25, so that American history, to sign or not to sign discussion has an 11 and a little bubble there. That's indicating to me that there's 11 submissions or 11 posts that need my attention. If I'm teaching a class of 25, I can make that decision and say, well, I'm expecting 25 posts or 25 papers, and there's only 11 in there right now. Am I going to go watch Grey's Anatomy on Hulu, or am I going to sit down and grade these, right? It's helping me decide how I'm going to spend my time. So I don't have to click into a course, go to the assignment, go to the Dropbox, and take a count there. It's surface right here that sees me 3 or 4 clicks. And it just helps me manage my time. If I can see this for all of my classes across the board at a glance. Saving time is a big component of what Canvas can do. So again, just like with Guy, this is just 1 click away. So Guy was able on his tablet to see that assignment, click it, and submit it. So just like that, I can actually click that and go right into our grading tool, the Speed Grader. Now, Speed Grader in Canvas was probably the most jaw-dropping tool about Canvas when it came on the market. Since then, other LMSs have developed similar tools, and that's okay because we want everybody to have awesome tools to use. So what Speed Grader gives to you is a display of the student's assignment on one side, and then your grading tools, including a rubric, on the other side, which just makes it super easy to grade. Now, at the top right-hand corner, I have my course roster with some little indicators that tell me who's submitted and who's not. So I can actually go through my roster. Maybe there's one particular student that I've been working with, maybe doing a little bit of extra mentoring, and I try to focus in on her early on so I can get her feedback, because she might have to do revisions. So I can, go through my list and find that one particular student, pull up their paper and focus attention on them, or I can just go down the list, whatever I want to do. So with the Speed Grader tool, we actually have an annotation tool built right in. So much like a student would turn in a paper and you'd write on it and give it back, you can do that digitally. And yes, this works beautifully on a mobile device. So if you just want to sit there, curled up in your favorite chair with a cup of tea on a Saturday morning and grade, you can do that right on your tablet or your phone. It's awesome. So this has some simple markup tools, so you can leave comments, you can draw, highlight, mark up, whatever you need to do. There's different colors. So if you want to draw attention to certain components. Yes.
Can you demonstrate a markup comment? Like, you're correct, assume in the middle of the sentence you want to make a comment on that part of the sentence. You know what I mean?
Maybe pull up a home page. So there's a couple of different tools here. So I can do, like I can drop a marker here, right? And just say, good formatting, right? So they did the indentation, right? So I just do that. I can do the highlighter and say, comment, this is confusing, if I can spell that. This is causing pain, there we go. I could strike through, you know, and be like, you don't need this part, not needed, right? So it's pretty powerful. We try to really mirror what we do asynchronously offline with paper, right? So that you can really do a lot of your grading. Safe paper, you're not printing out and carrying around mountains and mountains of paper anymore. So in addition to being able to do some annotation there, we also have a rubric tool built right in. So you create your rubrics, and you can create rubrics for your course, just for you, that you can reuse from term to term. Or you can create program or even institutional rubrics to standardize grading across the board, which is great if you have like 11 sections of a course, like a foundational course. Or if you have standardized content, something like nursing, where everything is like really governed pretty strictly. So you can create institutional rubrics and outcomes, you can create program level rubrics and outcomes, and you can create course level ones. So when they display here, you're looking at the student work, and the rubric is right on the side. It's not covering it up, it's not in a different interface, it's right there. And you're just clicking through. And you might have a couple of different types of criteria. So you might have your assignment criteria, it has to be X pages long, spelling and grammar, include all the components, whatever it is. And then you might have your learning outcomes criteria as well, and learning outcomes would be something you'd be monitoring longitudinally across their program or their student. I have one question in the back.
Did the students see the rubric when they're doing this exam?
Yes. Absolutely, yeah. So the students do see the rubric. They know exactly how they're going to be assessed before they submit the assignment, so they can self-check, make sure they're hitting on the key points.
Students can even track their outcomes as well. So they actually get a page where they can see how many times have I been assessed on this outcome, how have I done, what my percentages, etc. So they have access to that kind of data.
So they're seeing the data. They're seeing the empty rubric and the data.
And the data.
What format can the paper be in?
So the format for the submission, Canvas renders certain types. It'll render in this format that you can annotate it in. Canvas will render a PDF, a Word doc, a PowerPoint, an Excel spreadsheet. It'll render those types of documents. But a student can submit almost any type. What Canvas will render versus what you would have to download and grade offline, you know, so common file types Canvas will render, you can use the annotation tool, but something that might be bigger, like in a marketing or design class and they're doing Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, that's way too big for Canvas to render. You would just download it. So on the speed grader, as well as the assignment page itself, you have the ability to download that paper and grade it offline in a CAD computer animated drawing or assisted drawing class, a CAD file, Adobe Illustrator, something like that. Computer science class, if they have code, they need to render in a coding program. So Canvas will take it, but it'll only render certain things. So with SpeedGrader, you have choices. You notice the point values here. You can tell Canvas to go ahead and add that up and drop it in the gradebook. So you just click, graded, leave it, and it's done, or you can manually enter a different grade.
And is the rubric tool flexible enough that people do rubrics in so many different ways? I say in my division, most people don't give a separate point value for every element on the rubric like that, right? It's more kind of a holistic picture of what you didn't do with a holistic grade. Can it adapt to that?
It can. When you're creating the rubric, there are a few different settings, like hiding the total point value or keeping it separate, so the rubric score might not be the same exact as the assignment score. We also just added a rubric range. So it used to be definitive points, and now we've added that range capability, and we're working on a non-scoring rubric, so it's just formative feedback. So we're working on that type of stuff. So once you've used your rubric, you have choices to leave that text-based comment, but also guess what? There's a video tool, so I could actually click this immediate comment tool and fire up my webcam, either on my desktop or on my device and do the same thing that the student did and just use the device that I have. I can record myself giving feedback, which is great. Imagine in an ASL class and you want to talk to the student in their native language, you can do that. If you're in a music class and the student has submitted a video of themselves performing a piece, you can say, that's great, but the bridge should go bum, 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 and record yourself. It just adds this whole other layer. It's fantastic. So the media tool is available throughout Canvas to really kind of enhance everything.
Speaking about the voice recording, I'm a Spanish teacher. If students talk in Spanish, is it transcribed in Spanish?
I haven't done that because I don't speak Spanish, but I would encourage you to try it and let us know. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question for the online?
Yes, I can. So the question in the back of the room was, if I use that media recording tool on my device to speak, would Canvas translate it? I'm guessing that it would. We've globalized Canvas internationally, and it's really your device that's doing the work. I'm sure Canvas would render it, but I would encourage you to test that out.
Can a rubric be edited without going to the shell in which the rubric was created?
So the rubric can only be edited when you're in a, I can't edit it here in the speed grader because it's being used for the grading purpose. I would go back out to the assignment. So clicking the link at the top of the page, and this is where I'd be able to edit the rubric. So here's the assignment itself. This is the shell or the Dropbox. And I would just click this pencil icon here to go into edit mode to edit that rubric.
I'm sorry, no, this is the question and answer session.
No, I'm glad you're excited.
So say I'm teaching 4 sections of the same class and that happens every term, right? Can I design this rubric once and then have it in a library or something, or somehow copy it from term to term?
Yeah. So as an instructor, you always have access to your old courses and you can move content, all or some individual pieces of that content over into a current course at any time. So that's the default. The institution may come up with different policies, but as far as we're concerned, you always have access to your past courses. So maybe there was a discussion prompt you used a couple semesters ago that had a lot of activity, and you're like, oh, I want to use that again. You can go grab it and bring it in, or rubric or quiz or question.
And we also have 2 tools, one called Commons, one called Blueprint Courses, that can handle that structure in a couple of different ways. It depends on your use case. But you can control all 4 of those courses via one course if you want, but still have them as separate
Well,
courses.
I mean, in Moodle,
Tools
we
like
have masters, and you can always, you know, say I'm halfway through a course, and it's like, oh, there's this thing I did in another
And you
section,
don't,
you know, that I want to add, but to pull something, to import something from one section to another, it pulls up every single thing in that course, and then you have to choose. It's just kind of clunky.
Yeah.
And maybe it's that way with all.
Yeah, it's. I think that's partially a web archiving and interface thing. Hopefully with Canvas you'll find it easier to do that. But to Sean's point, there's also the Canvas Commons, which is another resource.
Question right next to you. Coven.
So let's take a look at Gradebook. So now that we've graded an assignment, let's take a look at what that looks like in the Gradebook. The Gradebook, as you might expect, is very spreadsheet-like. It's got rows and columns. What do we do? I want to point out this instructor card on the right-hand side. So thinking about how difficult it can be to learn a new piece of software, we built in tutorials. So as you get acclimated to Canvas, these tutorial cards pop out on the side and just give you a very quick summary of what that tool is. What am I looking at? Like, where am I? What am I doing? This just kind of tells you what it is, and you can either click the top arrow, which gets rid of it for this content item, or you can click End Tutorial, which will get rid of it for all of the items. So when you go to a discussion page for the first time, you'll get the tutorial, you read it, you click it, it's gone. If they become annoying, just click End Tutorial and they're all gone. You can always turn it back on in your settings if you wanted to. So I kind of know what I'm doing with Canvas.
Is there a student tutorial?
There is not, but that is a great idea. I love that idea. I don't know if somebody else has thought of that. Maybe they're working on it in the kitchen. I don't know. So in a Gradebook, you kind of expect rows and columns and all that kind of stuff, and that's what we have. So we have our list of students on the far side, and then every activity, every graded, activity in Canvas automatically gets a column. Managing a gradebook is not a two-step process. You simply create a graded activity and Canvas automatically creates the column and all the calculations and formulas that are needed to do the grading. You have a lot of different options, and we can go into that during the Q&A and do a deeper dive. But you can do things like set grading rules, that all discussions are worth cumulative 30% of the final grade. You can set rules like keep the highest or drop the highest or the lowest grade, those types of things. Okay, so you have some controls, but Canvas basically sets up all the formulas and calculations for you. Very easy to do. All you have to do is create the assignment. Now, the icons there indicate that work has been submitted, right? And I can go in and just enter a grade if I want to. So when I have a gradebook column, they might have submitted something online, but they might have also done something in class. An auto shop, they might have fixed a carburetor. In culinary arts, they made a flan. In a business class, they've done an oral report, whatever it is, you can just manually enter grades here, or you can use that speed grader tool with or without the rubric. I can also excuse a grade. I just type EX and oops, to excuse a student from a particular assignment. So pretty simple, basic gradebook. This gradebook has a couple of different filters and views. So if I name all my assignments, Unit 1, Quiz 1, Unit 1, Quiz 2, I can do an alpha sort, makes sense. I can sort newest to oldest, oldest to newest. So at the end of the semester, I might want to do a flip and just put all the newest ones or the oldest ones. Points, lowest to highest, and then modules. So module in Canvas is a way to organize units of content. A module might be week 1, week 2, week 3. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, or by concept. Here's the colonialism, here's the Declaration of Independence, here's the war, you know, 2 units. So modules are a way to do that. You can set up filters for how you view your gradebook. So if you have a lot of assignments, or maybe you do project-based learning and there's a lot of steps in the projects, you can actually set up filters. So like assignment groups, I just want to grade all of my discussions right now, right? I just want to do a review. How did my students do discussions? I can filter and just see discussions, or I can just see the written assignments, or however I want to do that. I can also do by modules, so I can say I just want to grade module X, right? So you can look at the plain out of the box gradebook, or you can start layering on these filters depending on how you want to use your gradebook. We try very hard to give you a lot of different tools and options so that you can customize and personalize how you interact with the system. So you have a lot of ways to manage your gradebook view and how you manage and use your gradebook.
So if you excuse that discussion, is it locked, or can you go back and grade it?
I can go back and grade it.
And then, so if you put a 0, can you go back and grade it?
Yeah, you can always manually override these grades. You can always manually.
Oh, I wasn't 100% clear on the grade. You said anytime you create an assignment, it shows up in the grade book. What if you did have, so I have an in-class activity, but there's no instructions in Canvas for that activity. How do I put a graded activity in? Is that, am I making sense?
So your instructions will be given in class on April 14th. That could be your instructions.
Okay, so it would be.
You still need that assignment
show in the.
And you want to do that for a few benefits. Things like the notifications that Carrie talked about in the beginning. If you have an assignment with a date, even if it's an in-class piece, right, students can receive updates about that. Assignments is a tool set, not specifically something like you have to think about it as a student turns something in, right? It's a tool set to say this is going to be a graded activity, and I'm going to do it in whatever way makes sense to my course. But you still want to integrate that with the communication channel for the students. And for a few other features like calendar and whatnot, so that you understand and your students understand where they are in the course. So even for something in class, you just do an assignment with an on-paper submission, and you're good to go. And that'll tell them the submission type is on paper. And it won't allow them to upload a file or anything like that. Yeah.
So I'll show you one last option for grading. So we saw the speed grader, you can manually enter. I know, it's like, oh my God, this is never end. There's just so much I can do here. It's fabulous. So there's this little door here. So I'm looking at Aaron Cartwright on this to sign or not to sign. There's this little door icon there. And when I click on that little door, I have this quick grader here. So we have the speed grader. I don't know the formal term for this, but it's the quicker grader, the speedier grader. There's a grade box right here. So I can just quickly enter grade, or I can set a status, late missing excuse. So maybe this is like the end of the semester, I see some holes in my spreadsheet, and I'm like, I need to fill those in. This is super easy for that. And I can just mark them real quick. So there's a lot of different ways, as I said, we try to give you all the tools you need, because we know math instructors are like super crazy about their grade books, which is awesome. And maybe literature teachers, sorry, Sean, are a little bit, lighter because people have different writing styles. That's okay. So one other thing we talked about in that rubric, how you might have your assignment criteria and then your learning outcomes. We also have this learning mastery gradebook. So if you are using learning outcomes, whether it's course, program, or institutional outcomes, and you're tracking that data, look at this awesome temperature check. Where are my students at in my class? Are they meeting the overarching learning objectives? This is great for programs like nursing where it's so heavily structured, but it's also great for just tracking student progress longitudinally, because this data is not only captured in your class, but it's captured institutionally too, so the institution can report out on this data as well. And to Sean's point earlier, the students can also view, if you enable that setting, students can also view this and kind of see for themselves, where do I need to work a little bit harder to meet my objectives. They like to see those grade lines too. They don't like red lines, they like grade lines. And these items, if I hover over them, I can see, more detail. I can zoom in a little bit more. I can see how that's calculated. You have different options for calculating that learning outcome. So Learning Mastery Gradebook is yet another way to assess student performance. If you're dabbling in CBE at all, this is very helpful in CBE programs as well.
Question, another question from online. Will Canvas accept graded assignments from any online textbook resources and post them directly into the gradebook?
So the key word there is any publisher. So will Canvas accept grades from any publisher textbook? I don't know about any, but many of them, sure. So we have business partnerships with Pearson and Cengage and Wiley and McGraw-Hill and those folks. The way that they integrate is through a technology integration called LTI. If the LTI with the publisher end is configured to talk to the gradebook, yes, we can do grade passback. So something like My Labs, right to the gradebook. Yeah, it's definitely possible if they built, the publishers built it that way, yeah, it'll work.
And most of the major publishers have built it that way. So the only reason we have the answer like that is because maybe there's a small publisher that we're unaware of that doesn't build it. Pearson, Cengage, Wiley, all those they do.
Yeah, they also have different collections. Some textbooks are older, they don't have. So let's talk about content organization. When we looked at the mobile app, the guy was able to pick through like the different modules in his history course. This is what it looks like on the teacher side. Kind of looks Moodle-y a little bit with that kind of stack structure there. So a module is just a capsule. It's a way to organize content that's related to create a learning pathway. The content actually lives in other places. This is just a way to bring it together and create a learning structure, a learning pathway in a course. So modules, you create them, you control how many modules you have in class, you control what they're called, you control what order they flow in. The iconography here, there's a page, there's an assignment, there's a discussion, here's an external link. So you can have all different types. You can link out to a publisher content if you wanted to, or an external resource. If I had Office 365 integrated, I could actually link and pull something right in from my Office. So Office 365, this is probably going to ask me to authenticate into Microsoft because I'm on a new network. But I would actually be able to pull in a document like a worksheet, a chapter, a reading, anything like that. I would actually be able to pull in right from Office 365 or Google Drive if I prefer to use Google. So any of my external tools, my publisher content will be listed here as well. Once you have your module created, it's simple drag and drop to move stuff around, which is awesome. I can even move stuff from one module to another if I wanted to. And then I have some selective or adaptive release settings here, which we call prerequisites and requirements. So whenever I see this like little traffic light here, there's some tools in there, or sometimes it's a cog icon. So I'm just gonna click edit. So I can lock until a certain day. So maybe you're teaching a blended or fully online course, and your week technically starts on Monday, but you want your students to have access to that content on Sunday at noon. That's fine, just set it to unlock. Sunday at noon, they have all their content, and they're ready to go for Monday morning. That's great for a really structured course where you want to hold content back and make sure everyone's on the same cycle moving through the course. You can also set prerequisites. This is great for things like math and science courses where they have to stack skills. Like I have to know concept A and master concept A before concept B will even make any sense to me at all. So I can say they have to complete module A before module B opens. And then I have to tell Canvas, well, what does complete mean? And I do that by setting requirements. So I might say that this module is complete when students have viewed this page, have maybe submitted to this discussion, and maybe scored a certain grade on an assignment or something like that, right? So whatever types of content I have in there is going to allow me to do these different things. Mark is done is great for like a grading policy, so you might have an introductory module with a grading policy, and you say Mark is done if you agree to this policy, they mark it as done. They have a record of it. They didn't just read it, but they agreed to it. Right? So requirements and prerequisites work together to create a structured learning pathway. You don't have to use those tools, but they're in there, which is great. Questions?
If you set those once in, say, a master course, do those carry over if you have multiple sections?
Yes, so these would technically be called settings, and settings is one of those components that can be migrated over. Yeah. So once you've designed your course, and we know that moving is hard, you move house, you change your car, you have to clean out your glove box, and you're like, where did this Chinese menu come from? Moving can be hard. But once you've set up everything in Canvas, you kind of pick up business as usual. You know, within 2 weeks, you're not missing the cup holder and spilling your latte anymore. So this sets the stage for creating learning pathways, learning structures. For the student experience, what's great is when you have items that are required, they see that requirement, must submit, must score, and they get little check marks that indicate when they're done, so they feel like, yeah, something like, a nice gaming experience. All right, so let's talk about getting content in Canvas. So I'm going to go out to my dashboard, and because I'm an admin, I have this start new course button here at the bottom, and I'm going to import, I forget what the acronym was, but I'm going to create a new course. So imagine that my student information system has provisioned over, you probably get ready for summer, thinking about summer, right? They just provisioned over all your summer shells, and now you have the shell, and you're like, what do I do? So when you go into your empty shell, this is what it looks like. There's just nothing in there. There's this very easy button right here that says add existing content. And this takes me to the Canvas importer tool. And the Canvas importer tool is the same tool you're going to use for your initial migration, as well as subsequent rollovers from term to term. So if I was already teaching a course, so say if I was just rolling over that history course, I would see a list of all the courses I taught before. This would be organized by term. So I could see my fall 2018 history course, my spring 2017 history course, all of my past versions of the courses. I can pick which one I want to bring over. Okay? But because I haven't taught in Canvas yet, I have to actually bring it over from Moodle. So what I would do is choose the Moodle import option, choose a file. I'm going to pick this one because it's pretty small. And then I have choices. I can pick all content, which is everything, or I can pick and choose and do specific content. So I can say, I just want my question banks and my quizzes, my assignments, and my PowerPoints, and that's it. I don't want anything else. Or my settings. I want all my course settings, right? Or my modules or whatever. So I can select or bring all, and I can adjust events and due dates. So if my content package had a beginning and a due date, or if I was copying my Canvas course. And last fall, I taught September 14th to December 22nd, but this year I'm teaching August 31st to whatever. Canvas will actually shift those dates for me. Jazz hands. So exciting. Talk about a time saver. Good golly. So I just click import when I'm ready and it'll start the import process. And please Wi-Fi. We were asked to do a live demo, so we took on the challenge head on. I took an extra coffee this morning. So the process will run, and what Canvas will actually do, as it's importing, it's going to do a check for broken links and give you a report on any broken links for missing images, broken link to external content, anything that just doesn't function like it should, and it'll give you a list of what those errors are, so you can go back and fix them real quick. Question. Amazing, right? We heard from so many teachers that that was a time-consuming thing, and they didn't know where to start. You know, imagine you have 37 content pages in there and 27 announcements. To check every single one is a lot of work. So we built in a link checker, and we call it the link validator, and you can actually run it at any time in your course, not just on import. So it's always available for you. So if you're, maybe there's a day or a week where students are like, how come these links are broken? Run the link validator, go in. So this is running a little slow. Come on, internet.
It's going to do it every semester when you migrate the course, but you can also do it at any time for the course and stuff.
Yeah. And then once that content is there, it's as simple. I mean, I can leave this page. I don't have to sit here and wait. I can go out to my calendar. So Canvas is going to get you, so if you do that date shift, right, from semester to semester, Canvas is going to get you pretty close. It might not be aware of when a holiday falls or when you have a PD day. We're not going to know when spring break is on your campus. So you just go into the calendar, and the calendar has a great drag and drop feature. So imagine this is the content I just imported, and I'm like, oh no, we have PD day. I'm going to drag and drop this over here, because that's actually PD day. And you know what that does? That updates that everywhere in Canvas. All you have to do is drag and drop. It changes the date on the assignment itself. So when the students view it, they have the correct date. And remember notifications, if the students have date change on their notifications, if you're doing this midterm, they'll get a notification that says, hey, the due date has changed. And they're like, yeah, no problem. Right? Super simple, drag and drop, super simple. So you migrate all your content, and then the second step would just be to go in here and tweak a little bit. Anything that doesn't have a due date would show up here. So especially when you're moving from a legacy system where everything might not have a due date, it would be here. So again, any activity that a student that's in the gradebook would come here, and you could just move these onto the calendar. So if they came in without a due date, you can start giving them due dates by dragging and dropping instead of opening the shell, typing in the date, and saving, right? So good question. So the crossed out ones could be one of two things depending on who you are and what your role is in the course. So for a student, you submitted it. For an instructor, it's been submitted and graded, right? So Canvas is very role aware. Who are you? How are you enrolled in the course? How does this matter to you? So if you're a student, you see it crossed out, it means you submitted, literally crossing something off the list. And if you've done your grading, then it's something off your list. Pretty nice. Who doesn't love lists? Everybody loves lists. So yeah, I'm thinking that these pink ones here that just applied are my new course that imported. So here's my new course that imported, the FTST course. And this is what it looked like. I haven't touched it other than I dragged a few items over to the calendar. But this is my course exactly as it came in from the Moodle package that we were sent. It's already organized into modules. Cool. So not a lot of work to do, right? It's already organized into modules. I've got probably a few things, just first glance, you know, I don't teach here, so a few things here at a glance that I might want to do. So this is what we would call a text header. I don't know what it's called on the Moodle side of things, but it's informational rather than content-based, and that's fine. I might actually just move this up to the top, right? And it doesn't have a title, it just says Untitled Module. So I might edit that and just say course overview, right? So just some minor cleanup. I see that this one has a due date. It says due October 11th. I don't know, is the owner of this course in here?
I'm vaguely familiar with it.
Vaguely familiar with it? So I don't want to misinterpret it wrong, but this is just demonstration anyway, right? It's just a sandbox play. So what I might do here, because think about the import process and how Canvas will do the date shift. I don't want to have to edit this module, right? I don't want to.
But it makes sense in Moodle.
Sure. So I'm gonna take out this October 11th right here and find out like when is October 11th. So if it was due October 11th, I'm gonna interpret this and say, oh, this module will probably open that Sunday or Monday. So I'm just gonna set that module unlock date to that date. Now, if I change due dates like that, oh look, here's some of these activities do have due dates. That might have been me dragging stuff around. But again, when you take due dates out of the interface, those are less things that you have to edit. Let Canvas handle that metadata stuff on the back end. So let's take a look at a discussion just for the heck of it. Get acquainted. Oh, cool, a video. Oh, see, now that's exciting because remember that video tool? Students can respond in video too, not just text. Awesome. So let's take a look at some of these discussion settings that we can do. So this is the rich content editor. If you can author content Moodle or Word or PowerPoint, you can use that editor, right? It's familiar, bold, italicized, underline, on the table. We also have an accessibility checker in here though. See this little guy in the circle? I click that. Oh good, no accessibility errors. Awesome. So real quick, there's an accessibility checker in the rich content editor, and it will flag anything that needs a tweak, and it's not just going to flag it, it's going to tell you how to fix it and why. It's going to say this high contrast is not good for certain types of users, try this combination instead, right? So it's educating you along the way. And that accessibility checker is also available for students, so wherever that rich content editor is available, so why not, you know, teach them to do it too. Especially if you have an educator program and they're going to be teachers someday, it's good for them to start be consciously aware of that kind of stuff. So it's a very simple content editor. This content selector on the right-hand side is showing you all the content items that were imported. So you can link to them anywhere. So I have links, I have files. So all the files, the PowerPoints, Word documents, images, everything that was in the content package from Moodle came over as files, images. Here's all the images that came over in the package. Ooh, a knife. What class is this? This might be, oh my gosh, the knives. I don't like them. You know what? Scary. So files, links. I just finished the Dirty John podcast, so the knives are like, oh. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. It's fascinating. Oh my quizzes are in here. Gosh, so this is great. So I could actually, using this rich content editor, just conceptually, I could outline my week. You know, say this week we will, and then chapter 6, and we will have this discussion. So that content selector shows you all the content in your course, and then you can do deep linking. Oh my gosh, we have jaws dropping over here. Yeah. So it's so simple to like create what we call deep linking into the course to help students easily, again, saving time. What do you have to do? Here's a link to it. What do I have to read? Here's a link to it. It just makes Canvas so easy to use. And obviously, looks like it'll solve some time-consuming tasks as well. One last thing about creating these types of activities, if you have different sections in your class, you can assign activities to different sections. If you have students that need accommodations and they need more time, you can give a certain student more time or extend the due date for that student or a group of students. So when you're creating these activities with due dates, you can also, what we call, vary the due dates by group or by individual.
And if you have those 4 sections every semester, when you do this, all that.
I do have a question pertinent to discussions. In Moodle currently, we cannot close discussions And that, like, if I say, you know, this is when I want my discussion due, we have to manually add that end date.
Yes.
There is no time.
So we have this available due date, and that's time management for you and time management for them. So, and you can do this for any activity with a due date. So you say this is due, and I will accept submissions between these dates. So after February 11th, in this case, that's no longer accepting submissions. They can still view it and see what they learned and how they learned. They can still see what other people posted, but they're no longer submitting, which means you don't have to go back and check it.
And that,
right?
that until they post to the calendar so that students can see it?
It doesn't. They'll just click on the discussion and it'll say this is closed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the due date shows up.
The due date shows up on the calendar.
The due date shows up.
Correct.
Does Canvas tell you if a submission was due on the 8th and open till the 11th? Does it indicate to you that they submitted it late in any way? So if they submitted it on the 10th, does it show that in the submission?
It shows it in the speed grader. So it'll show submitted late. It has a flag. And it will show it in the gradebook by color code, and you can set up that color scheme. So the late ones are red or orange or whatever you need them to be.
Can discussions be set up so that it's a post first and the student has to make their post before they see everybody else's comments?
Yes. And there's also a liking. So we had a lot of students say, I just want to like something. I don't want to have to comment that I liked it. I just want to like it. So we added that as an option. You don't have to turn that on or not, but it's an option. All right. So again, creating an activity you're using, or any content really in Canvas, you're using the same rich content editor. You always have this content selector. I do jazz hands because it's absolutely hands down my favorite tool in Canvas. I want to see what I have in there already before I start building stuff, right? So I have all my stuff, and then I would have settings depending on what the activity is. You know, this is a discussion, so, you know, users must post before seeing. Is it graded or not? Do I want to allow liking? Is this a group discussion? Maybe I have 100 students and I want to separate them into 4 groups. I can do that. How many points? Wow, 100 points for a discussion. That's pretty generous. Do I want to display the grade as point value, complete or incomplete? Do I want to require peer reviews? Do I want to assign it to everyone, just certain people, just groups, just sections? And then that availability. And that's awesome. If you want to lock it down, so you don't have to manually lock it, just add the date, and then when you flip next semester, Canvas will shift it for you, which is awesome. Any other questions about creating activities using that rich content editor? Any other magical settings that you hope for that maybe are in there? Yes, sir.
When you said when you flip to the next semester, you mean keeping the same course and reuse it another semester before?
So when we talk about flipping, and we know that schools have different methodologies, so the question is what happens when we flip a course? So what do we mean by flipping a course? So when we talk about flipping a course, what we're talking about is making a copy of it. So you're either saying, Canvas, make a copy of this course and you're doing it, or more than likely the system is creating an empty shell and you're copying last term's content over using that importer tool. So you're making a copy of the content. The student data stays in the archived version of the class, which is great for auditing purposes and that type of thing. You can keep that archive of the course. Canvas is a cloud-based subscription service, like Sean was describing earlier. Everything lives in the cloud. It's scalable. It's elastic. It's designed to grow with you. We know that world courses are going to stack up like a magazine subscription at home. Your publisher doesn't come and take your old issues away from you. We're not going to take your old courses away from you. They stay in the system for auditing purposes. We don't delete them unless you explicitly tell us to do that. So that allows the system to audit performance, grades, learning outcomes, activities. If there's a grade dispute, a student comes back and says, hey, you know, what happened? You can pull that data, it's still there. And then for you as an instructor, you can go back and find that juicy discussion topic you used a few terms ago.
Is there some sort of a limit to how much storage we can have with that?
We used to, so the way that we calculate storage is based on your full-time enrollment of students. You can have as many teachers as you want and admins and all that kind of stuff. And we used to have a 500 megabyte cap on that, and we just made that unlimited for files and that type of thing. We do have a limit on multimedia media, because video can take up a lot of bandwidth. But for files, content pages, courses, the basic content, it's unlimited now.
Can you store things without that multimedia then? Like, can it be saved without those multimedia?
Sure.
What is the maximum second you guys have to use?
That's the 500.
It's
now.
500 megabytes per FTE. And again, we're not draconian. You're not going to get like a notification that you're above. Now, your administrators have controls to set on the faculty. They can only keep X amount. So they can control that based on, literature. We're just going to have a bunch of documents that don't have too many videos. Culinary might have a lot of videos because they do a lot of in-person items. Media might have a lot of videos for that purpose. So they can control that. But it is that 500 megabytes per FTE, but it's pretty generous. We always get one question. No, that's just your media storage. Everything else is unlimited.
So
Everything else is unlimited.
When you store, when you create your course, or you post your course, media and of course it's saved somewhere else.
Yes. Yes.
But it all works together. That's the benefit of the cloud. We actually get the question pretty often. What do we do if we max out our storage? We've actually never had a client max their storage out. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but there's a lot of magic that happens behind the scenes with the cloud. Our engineers are super smart. And so we've actually never had it happen. We've had clients for 6 and 7 years now large 26,000 student institutions who have never, had their media storage tapped out. So
if you're unsure if you're using media storage or not, when you're using media storage, you have to literally click this button that says record or upload media, and then you've recorded or uploaded media. That's when you're using your media storage. Otherwise, you're just using file storage, which is unlimited. So it's pretty kind of clear what the difference is there. But if you're ever in doubt, just let us know.
questions?
Is there a place, or can you show me final grades
Final grades.
and the submission? Like, is there a place that tells them your final grades are due?
And then reach out.
I just actually do a video and you can add on.
And then I log in.
So walk me through this again. So your final grades are due. Is that the system telling you the faculty? Or
Telling that.
Okay.
She's the registrar.
Power user.
They have
So the gradebook itself is going to do the auto calculation. And there's a total column. Oh, I don't have any students in the class. Thanks. I'm gonna go back to my history class. Pro tip from me to you, the URL is editable, so I'm just gonna go back to my history course. I know it's course number 1, so I just navigated back there. So my gradebook, I'm gonna scroll real fast. Okay, so I have the total column here at the end, and that's gonna auto-calculate for me. We can talk more about workflows and processes and connections with your student information system. We do have the ability for Canvas to post these grades to the student information system if that's the direction you want to go. The technical capability on our side allows that. It's just configuring it with your student information system. So there could be a button in here that says post final grades to SIS, and then it's just a workflow. Who messages the faculty, it reminds them to do that. But we could make it as easy as putting a button in there that they post to the SIS. It could be done scripted, but that takes out the option of giving faculty that time to go in and change and manually do it themselves. So you could script it and say that on the 11th at 12:01 p.m. grades are going to be pulled. So I know. So to be clear, that's what's possible with Canvas. We'll want to have more technical conversations about your student information system, what you have access to on your SIS side, and how we would get from point A to point B. Technically, it's possible. We just need to figure out how to get there if that's your desire, which it seems to be. You seem pretty excited about that.
was great.
We do have colleges that do that right now. So it's not even that's possible. People do that already. Published to SIS. So, yeah.
And that would happen one quarter.
The next thing I want to know is there any way for faculty to indicate on here that would flow if a student registered for the class but did not attend?
Yes. So in your course menu, there's a couple of different tools we can take a look at. We'll start with the people page. So the people page is a roster. You can see that roster in Gradebook, but here I have a roster and I can see the student's name. I can see what section they're in. So if this was, say, an elective and I had juniors and seniors, or just had a Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday class, so I might have different sections in here. I can see how our users enrolled. I might have TAs in here, I might have designers in here, and I would get to see their last activity and their total activity in the course. I see a lot of information here about the page, about the individual students rather. I can deactivate a user, so if maybe they owe $1,500 to the library because a microscope broke, something terrible, tragic happened, they could be deactivated or maybe they're financially checked and clear, whatever. You can deactivate a user temporarily and then reactivate them, or maybe they took a sick leave or something like that. You can remove a user from the class, you can edit a role, edit sections, all that kind of good stuff is available here. So you get to see time on task, who the student is, what they're doing. I can also see a context card, so I can see different activity. How are they participating and doing page views compared to other people in the class, last graded items, total grade, items that are missing, items that are late. So this is called the context card. So I can see at a glance as I'm looking at my roster what students are doing. I can also click on analytics and see how Guy is doing on different activities, my interaction with the student, and I as a teacher doing everything I can to help the student get through the course. So I would see all our interactions. I would get to see all of their submissions, late, missing, anything like that. I would get to see and send the messages if I need to. Question?
And last activity was recorded, is that the last time they logged onto the class or the last time they submitted something?
A login is a login, an activity would be a page view, a participation, something like that. Login is just system login, activity is course activity. So they can log into the system and have no course activity if they don't click on anything in the course. But once they start clicking on stuff in the course, it's considered course activity.
And that last activity is the last activity in your course, not their last activity in the system itself. And so if you have them in 2 or 3 different courses, you can see who's active in those particular courses.
I can drill deeper into student guide and see an access report. So everything that student has touched on in the course, how many times they viewed those items, how many times participated, and when they did it. So we're capturing a ton of data on the back end of what students are seeing and what they're doing. So you can see it as an instructor, you can see it as an admin, if you have advisors, it's surfaced, right?
So this is for a student that is on the system. Do you ever purge students from the database or delete students? And if you do, how do we get back and get students?
Great question. So we do not, so the question is, do we delete, purge, or otherwise, how we can bring a student back? So we'll talk about this in the context of any user. As a faculty member could leave and then come back a few years later. So any user can be deleted from the system. Okay, if they come back with the same SysID, you can find them in the cloud because everything is backed up and archived. They're just deleted from the user interface. Unless you explicitly tell us to delete them permanently from the cloud. If you want the person permanently deleted from the cloud, you have to tell us. If you want them deleted from the user interface, you can delete them from the user interface, and then you can bring them back.
That means when you say deleted from the user interface, that means they don't see the courses, so they don't have access to campus, or they still have access.
If you delete a person, so this is a user profile, this is the user profile list. So I'll pick on Natalie. These are just generic users that we have. So I can literally delete this user from the system. It's going to have to double check and say, are you sure you want to delete this user? The user would no longer have access. You would not see them in the user interface. They don't have a presence in the course. They're gone effectively from here. Now, they still live in the cloud, and if the student comes back and you want to reinstate them, you can bring them back. If we have the appropriate student ID, user ID, we can bring them back into the system. Okay, so that's the leading
profile, right?
Yes.
So, and eventually that we repeat that students if they're not, like you said, in the interface. how do we get back to the reports?
So typically, and it's probably just a miscommunication in language. So delete for us and delete for most institutions when say the SIS says the student is done, right? They're not a student anymore, they graduated. They're not deleted from the system at all. They're there, and that's so that you retain that data over time. Now, like Eric said, if at some point in time, and some institutional policies will set this out, you don't keep student data longer than 7 years. Great, 7 years comes in, you start deleting permanently everything that you have. Typically, the student is always going to be there. They just won't have access to the system. They're just more what we call deactivated.
I understood.
Yeah.
But in that situation, if we wanted to run this reports, see history there, is that something that is accessible to us, or we have to go through you? Since the students is always there, and it's in the
That's through us, and then you're going to build Canvas to the reports you want to extract. So there are lots of different ways, and we're going to cover this a little bit in a couple of other sessions. There's a couple of different ways to, I only want to look at data from 2015, 2016, 2017, right? So that any student that was deleted in 2014, you're not going to see that data. So you do have control over the kind of data you want to see, even if the student is there. There are ways, obviously, that you can not have that student as a part of your data. Or you can just show current active enrollments, right? So you just see the current active students as well. So there are lots of different ways to slice and dice that data, and you have full access to your data. So you don't have to come to us for any of that. That's literally, I think deleting is probably the only thing you legitimately have to come for us to do, and typically that's driven by institutional policies.
And the reason that we have to do is a permanent deletion.
That is a permanent deletion.
From the other.
Did that answer your
Did that help?
question from the registrar, the initial question from the registrar about seeing student activity, what they've looked at, what they've clicked on, what they've missed?
If you
Look at the last 3 years, and
No, instructors have to turn in what we call no-shows. And we drop the student or drop them from the course because they never showed up. But they still have to pay for it.
So is that always is it always online, face to face, or for everyone?
Every class.
Everyone. Okay.
No matter how it's on.
And right now, we get paid for us.
Well, there's a couple of different ways to do that, and hopefully this will answer.
So for do you have purely online classes? No. Some. So again, this is something that we can we can spend an hour and a half just on this one question, talking about how attendance or participation is tracked and reported. Okay. So we give you a lot of tools. You've probably started to sense a theme that Canvas is very flexible. We work with K-12 institutions. We work with the largest, biggest research institutions in the world. Little 4-year-olds use Canvas, and the smartest researchers at the biggest institutions use Canvas. It's very flexible, and you can use all of the tools. You get everything. So for online classes where you have to track metadata, when did they log in? What did they look at? What did they teach? What was late? What was missing? You would pull that from a metadata data backend if you have access to that. You can pull it manually, or you can run scripts and have it automatically go wherever you need it to. Okay, that data is all logged. When did they log in? What did they do? How long since their last login? All that information. Okay. Now, for a traditional face-to-face or hybrid or blended experience, you also have an attendance tool. So in your class, if your teachers want to use it, they don't have to. If they prefer paper, that's fine. But you get the roster. This automatically is created for you based on the roster, and it will update based on add drops. So what I would do is I would click this Mark All Present tool up at the top left, and then go in and just mark anybody who is late or absent. Right? Done.
And that's you as the instructor.
Yes, or whoever has the appropriate permissions to do that. It could be a TA.
I mean, I think part of this is going to be a larger instructional requirement that we use the LMS for attendance, because there are a lot of instructors who don't. And so it's not, if it's not tracked, if they're not using the LMS tool, you're still getting it, it's not.
Yeah.
Right, and right now, it's not a requirement that we use the Google attendance tool, and I know across the college, many instructors don't.
So this, I take students, 50% of the time I'm not on campus with students, I'm out in the clinical field.
can I get to this easily on my phone?
Yep, it works on your phone.
And then can I make a grading connecting to it?
Great question. Wow. So yes, the attendance tool is available on mobile, so you can do this on your phone or your tablet, no problem. Same interface. It looks almost identical. So the way that we track attendance with this attendance tool is it automatically creates a gradebook column. Again, a theme. If something is graded, there's a gradebook column worth 100 points, and it starts deducting percentages of that based on if they're late or absent, and you can configure what that variable is. Okay. So the gradebook column is going to be there, so you have an official grade, and how you want to calculate that into your total grade is up to you. It might not be worth anything, you're just tracking it, or it could be worth a point in the total grade scheme thing, however you want to do that. So your gradebook, so for instructors that don't do this on a daily basis, it's not part of their purview, up at the top right, they can actually go backwards and forwards and grade past classes, right? So they can continue doing their grade. Maybe they wrote on a post-it, Jane was absent on Monday, right? So they have the calendar, so they can, Friday night, they can grade for the whole week, right? So they can grade whatever they want. Here's another cool thing about this. It might get some of those resistors, people who don't like to take attendance. This class seating chart, this is great for labs. This is great for, I've seen this used in music class. I actually helped an instructor who had 150 students. I helped an instructor build a replica of their orchestra pit using this tool with 150 students so that they could grade their performances. It was so cool. And we broke that out. We had secondary ones for the woodwinds and the brass. It was a fun experiment. We wanted to see how much it would scale, right? That was our goal. So I can actually do this and build out my tables. So I can have a seating chart too, which is great. First couple weeks of school, you don't know anybody's name. This is awesome if you have required seating charts. And again, you just do the same thing to take attendance by seating chart. Okay. So I can see how many times they were absent, late, present. I can mark all that kind of stuff. I get a calculation. So this is gray. Attendance is 93%.
Can you make that so like in the clinical area, like I may have 5 of my 6 students because I've one off doing something else. So like they'll all get say 10 experiences, but they don't all get the same 10. So like how would that, like, can it be flexible in that regard of, you know, not everybody here is here on Wednesday because I've got, you know, this is this student's day off.
So this is a running total. It's not an individual column per day, so you wouldn't use that excuse function. So it's just a matter of kind of, you know how it functions, right? And if they missed 9, they would have, you know, if you adjust the score for 10, right? You're making sure that everybody has that, is climbing to that 10 points. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it would do the calculation for you. It's just kind of figuring out the settings.
Well, since some are on observations, and so we're not always hands-on with that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I totally get it. And you can, and again, this will pick up sections. So if you have a class roster of 30 and they break up into groups of 5 or 6 for clinical rotations, you can set them up as sections and then grade accordingly. So if you're with group A at a clinical site and you're just grading them that day, you can actually do that as well. So it'll pick up sections, which is really nice. And then this report at a registrar, the instructor could then do an attendance report and give you attendance for, you know, February 1st to February 28th and email that to your office. And now you have the attendance report. You can also pull that administratively so that the admin, whoever has admin access, you might have admin access, you can generate an attendance report as well. So the instructor doesn't have to print it out, walk over to your office. They don't have to print it out, save the email in as an attachment. They can just do it right from here. They would type in your email address instead of their own, and then it goes directly to you.
Question from online. What is your experience with integrating with colleague Illusion's system?
Okay. So a SIS question. Are there SIS people in the room or just online? Any other SIS?
And we can save that for the IT.
Okay. So Illusion products are very popular in higher ed. We have a lot of experience with higher ed. We would just want to find out more about if you're using their portal, if you're using ILP, that type of thing. But we've migrated a lot of schools who use Colleague and other Illusion products.
And we can dive more into that in that other session.
Yeah, we have experience doing that. We could even make recommendations or referrals rather, so you could talk to other schools using that product.
It's easy to say it's probably what the second or third most popular fits.
Third or fourth.
Yeah, third or fourth.
Any other questions on mine? Okay, go ahead.
I'm butting back in the instructional
It's
content
your
area,
time.
'cause I've been
You
given
butt in
4
while you want.
questions to ask by other people. One is really simple. Is messaging within the LMS, within Canvas, does that happen within each class section? And can we attach, can an attachment be added to a message? We can't do that in Moodle right now. So student has a late assignment, you end up deferring back out to, I'll send it to my SCC email or having to think around to change due date or whatever. And because there's no way to attach anything to messaging.
So the messaging system in Canvas is called Conversations, and you get there by clicking on your inbox. That's not the only way you would receive a conversation, because remember notifications. You might opt to have those conversations sent to your email address or your cell phone or whatever. So your conversation could happen wherever you tell Canvas you want it to happen, but it's always part of your inbox. So if it's created, replied to, anything like that in conversations in Canvas, it's archived in your inbox. So it's part of your archive associated with your profile that would exist unless you're doing this. So here I have my inbox. I'm logged in as me. Here's the message I sent to Guy earlier today that we saw on Guy's tablet view, right? So here's a message that I sent to one of my students. I have my courses list here up at the top, so here are all the different courses that I have. Okay, so I can message an individual course. I can mark something as unread or view as unread. I can star something. It's not as deep as the email tools you're probably used to, but there's enough tools in there where you can flag things, save them, archive them, right? Keep it tidy. Now composing a message is just clicking this pen and pencil icon up here. I select the course that I want to message, and then I have an address book associated with that course. So I can send it to everyone, all the people in the course. I can send it to just the teachers if I'm co-teaching. I can send it to just the students or student groups. So if I have project groups, maybe project group B asked for an extension or they want to change their presentation date because they're still working on it, right? So I can message a student group and it would hit everybody in that group. When I get into students, I would see all students. If I had sections in this course, I would see sections as an option as well. Okay, so I can pick and choose who I want to. All the people, just teachers, just students, just groups, or just sections. This course doesn't have sections, but if it did, it would be in there. Or I can just do one person. I just start typing and pull up that person. So, so I might be sending Guy a note about participation in class. Great work. Glad you're back. And yes, I have the attachment icon here at the bottom. I also have the media icon if I want to record media, which does count against my media storage, but that's okay. A 5-minute message is not much data. So I can add an attachment, or I can actually record something and send it to the user. So if Guy's working on a project and I just saw an article in the newspaper he might like, I can attach it or link to it.
So this is like an email. I think her question was about chat. Would you be able to attach files?
We can do a review of some of the options. Does that help? Is that what you want to get?
Yes, that's exactly what I needed.
And then we have another question about chat. We can take a look at chat too. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys offer like live chats?
Yes. Good. Insane.
While we're talking about like live chats, like how do you guys do distance learning, virtual learning, virtual classrooms?
Great. Let's do it. Let's do it all. All right. So I'm going to go back to my American history class, and we're going to talk real quick about enabling tools in my class, and then we'll talk about using those tools. So when I'm in my class, whether I'm a teacher or a designer, the settings tab is the bottommost tab on the left-hand side. And this navigation tab here at the top is how I determine what tools I'm gonna make available in my course menu. So navigation is how you set up the tools that are available in your course, okay? So if this is a 0365 school, we don't need Google Drive. If we want to enable chat, I drag and drop and bring chat up here, and I can drag and drop to rearrange it. So I might want my syllabus at the top, followed by announcements, modules, chat. I can move up assignments, discussions, collaborations, people, grades, whatever I want. I just organize that and click save, right? So that's my menu. And yes, when you copy from term to term, that's a part of that copy. If you wanted to maybe just make sure settings are included, okay? So chat is a simple chat tool, just like you'd expect it to be. It's course level chat. So I'm only going to be chatting with people in this course. Okay, so I'm only chatting with people in this course. The chat is course dependent. Okay, but there is a history. So if you're an instructor and there's a chat going on, maybe you have an exam on Friday and students are studying together online, and you just want to, you know, temperature check how are students doing. Are they off track? Do they need me? You can go in and look at the chat history if you want to. So the chat is obviously synchronous. Two people who are online at the same time can chat together. That's course specific. You also have, we're just going to touch on collaborations briefly. So collaborations is really students working together to build a spreadsheet or to write a business plan or to put together a presentation. You can tie that to O365, so they're actually using your Office products. And they're building and working on something together, either in real time or asynchronously in a collaborative document producing type environment. And then you also have.
Do you have a demo for that, how that works? The 365 integration?
I can. Let me make a note of that. And we'll do that. I have to authenticate in.
So it evidently uses the chat for the Skype client then?
It does not use Skype.
Oh,
Skype was a separate product that Microsoft bought, so they didn't actually own the code. So when we built the integration with them, we tried to, and we wanted to get like that presence awareness, but the Skype code was just like a nightmare. We worked with Microsoft. We spent a lot of time in Seattle trying to get that up and running.
But your collaboration, is it audio, video, just chat?
So chat is chat. Collaborations is document authoring together. So let's talk about conferences. So conferences is where you have a real-time live web conference. So this comes standard with Canvas. This does not cost you anything extra. Even if you continue using Zoom, that's fine. This is another option that you get. So with conferences, so I might have a study group session, right? I can set it for a duration or just have it being a long running meeting. If I want to, I can leave it open as like a drop-in area that the students can use anytime. And I can do drop in study group, and I can say on monitor, like there's no teacher in there. But I can also use this conferencing tool for things like virtual office hours. So I might set up virtual office hours, open up this conferencing tool, meet with my students one-to-one, and that's it. So I can use this for that. Students can use it for study groups. If there's a snow day and I want to have my presentation anyway, because we have a quiz on Friday, I can use it in presentation mode. I can choose all members or just some members in the class. And then when I fire up my study group, or my conference rather, it's powered by a tool called Big Blue Button from Blindside Networks in Canada. We are a good integration partner with them. We've used them since day one. Oh, Flash. They're moving to HTML5. They just haven't finished HTML5 yet. This is one of the few places where Flash is needed in Canvas. But conferences is just like Zoom or WebEx or whatever, you know, typical conferencing tool. You can slow a slideshow, you have a whiteboard, you can do microphone or listen only, you have a chat over here on the right side, so there's another live synchronous chat space. You can draw and write on the whiteboard or whatever. You can do a screen share, you can show a video, you can do a whole lecture like this or just do a study group.
Record the conversation together and send it to you.
With conferencing, it can be recorded. You as the instructor would have access to that recording whether they send it to you or not. That recording is available for 14 days and then it is purged from the system. Because we offer this for free, we kind of had to draw the line in the sand somewhere. And with Blindside, we agreed that 14 days for these recordings is sufficient. If you want unlimited future storage, we can upgrade you to premium Big Blue Button, but free out of the box, you get it anyway. You get 14 days recording. So yes, students can talk together, record it, and send it to you. So this could be their presentation. They could do their oral presentation, record it, send you the link, you grade it. That presentation is going to be gone in 14 days, but you've already graded it anyway.
Can it be downloaded, that file though?
That file cannot be downloaded if you need the download capability that comes with the premium. So the premium gives you long-term video access. It gives you download capability. It also gives you telephony. So not just the voice over IP, but you can also have a phone number to call in, and it allows you to invite external guests. So premium gives you a little bit more.
We see a lot of institutions who use this. Kind of think about their conferencing right now. You guys have Zoom, a lot of schools have Collaborate, WebEx, etc. So you can use this to augment that, still use the one you're already using heavily in campus, and this is just used maybe for student groups or something like that, or kind of re-augment your strategy and kind of recalibrate and maybe use premium. So there are lots of different ways to go. The free version probably isn't meant to be your sole conferencing solution. It's there for quick activity because students can drop in, start it up really quickly and efficiently. But the premium does have all those options as well.
Does the free version have login?
Login.
Log that conversation on campus. How long is it?
For as long as the recording exists, yes. But at that 14 days, the recording is gone.
So this is a third-party tool, Big Blue Button. So a lot of the metadata lives
The
with
log
it.
goes to right?
Oh, what?
The log of the conversation has to go.
So I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know where the log for this chat goes. If you need a log, then use the Canvas chat because that's accessible. This is a third-party tool. This is not, this comes free with Canvas, but we don't own it, so we don't have access to the code. Does that make sense? If you need that access to the code, we would talk to Fred at Blindside and talk about getting you premium access, which gives you more administrative
Just
control.
get requests from time to time to report whether or not the conference happened between instructor, student, or students. When they're using our
And Zoom can be integrated into Canvas as well. So, yeah. Question?
Okay, so we teach students all over. And so, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, Blackboard Ultra has a product that, like, I can lecture from. I can have class students in my classroom, and then I can have my students in Beatrice, and the students in Beatrice can, like, raise their hand. They can, like, click on a button, and it shows me that they raised their hand, and to ask a question. They also have the live chat going on, and then all of that gets, like, you can save all of that literally into your product, into your classroom, into your module, whatever, so that when they're getting ready to study for their cumulative final exam or their NCLEX or whatever, they have all that stuff that they can like review. Do you have that ability?
So if this conference tool is used, and if the recording is saved, it's part of the course archive. That recording is part of the course, which means members of the course have access to it for 14 days and then it's gone.
Okay, so how do you get it? You said premium, so can you guys split up the package so like the nursing department gets the premium package because you use them, and the rest of the schools, if they don't use it, they don't need that, or teachers that do want it, or the ones that do the distance education that do want it, can have it. Like, can you break that up a little bit so that not everyone, gets it? Direct ed courses don't necessarily need it or whatever, but.
The answer to that is yes. My other question then is, do you not do that with Zoom now?
I already use a right now we're using
I was about to say, we'll check out integration, but no.
I didn't feel a lot of love for that.
Yeah. It's not what we needed. And I honestly, I don't want to plan for today. I want to plan for 4 years from now. Like, because we're not even going to get your product for another year. So it's great and all, but honestly, we have to be thinking forward and not thinking today. And I mean, technology changes so fast already. If we're thinking today, we're already thinking today. So I was trying to think.
You're a futurist.
Trying.
Is there any want to use Zoom, or would you really consider something like this?
I would rather have something that is, I get really frustrated when my students have to download more apps, or when I have to learn more products. I want one system, one product that I can click into, that I can just do it here. I don't have to have, oh, okay, well, I have this laptop, I have to click into our system because this laptop has all my downloads that I need to pull up and to do all these products, because that computer doesn't. And we get bounced around between different classrooms. So like my classroom isn't the same classroom every time. I mean, even in the same class or semester, I am literally in 4 different classrooms. So it's like, I need a product that is all in one spot.
Yeah. And the answer is yes to that. Fred's super flexible to work with that, and I've done it with him before. So small sets of users, single departments or programs, like that's easy to do with Zoom. So the answer is yes.
Okay. So just to drill that home, and I want you to feel comfortable with that because you're planning our future as civilization. Sure.
You know, because I mean, healthcare is futuristic.
You have to be, yeah. Please, sure. You know, die hardly. So just to put you in peace of mind and put this, to draw, underline under this, highlight, and put stars next to it. On the back end of your system, we have the structure called sub-accounts. So we would create a nursing program or health sciences or whatever your department or division is called. We would call it that on the back end, and you can control roles and permissions, add applications, Pearson Mind Labs, the Big Blue Button Premium, add in whatever you need to for your department, and that's going to be your licensing agreements with Fred or whoever that other person is. So system, from a system perspective, administration, you create sub-accounts for your different departments and programs, and then you can apply third-party tools, settings, roles, permissions, anything at that level. Okay, and that even for the registrar, pulling reports, grades, attendance, anything like that can be done at those different levels within the hierarchy.
Can you have the chat running at the same time you're doing the big report?
Yep. Yeah, they're different tools. Yeah.
So that like my student pediatrics, instead of them raising their hands because they're shy or they don't want to talk on the screen, like they can just text, you know, they can just message it and put up a question.
And the good thing is, yeah, Big Blue Button both is getting a mobile client this year and the HTML5 piece, so it's going to be fully accessible, fully responsive online. It's really great updates coming right along. There's also breakout rooms with that, so you get recordings, you get breakout rooms, you get everything.
Okay. And then is there like I said, is there a way that the student, I can see the students logged on, like, you know, and so that they can like raise their hand. Click a button or something and it raises their hand. They have a question.
I think there's a raise hand feature.
Yes. Okay.
The chat runs right there next to the video itself.
Okay. So I'm authenticating into Microsoft so that we can take a look at that. So you would configure this on the back end at a system level. You're just enabling it. It doesn't cost anything extra. We actually built a really great relationship with Microsoft. They've been phenomenal to work with for such a big company. So this integration, so I just authenticated in. So you, as the instructor or your students, would have to authenticate, basically say, yes, Microsoft, you can talk to my campus account, vice versa. So now I have this Office 365 tool in my course menu, and lo and behold, I can see all my files on my OneDrive. Okay. Now, if I'm an instructor and I want to add one of those files to my course somewhere, I can do something like click in this module page, I click add, I choose external tool, I go to O365, and I'm going to be able to see my drive here again, and I'll be able to pick a document. So here's all my OneDrive, and I can say, let's pull in this investigating mechanical weathering file, and now it's part of my module, right? So I did it right from Canvas. I didn't have to go to OneDrive, download, save, go to Canvas, upload, then link. I just did it right from the module because now Canvas can access my OneDrive. That means students also can submit from OneDrive. So if they're authoring their paper or their presentation of their spreadsheet in OneDrive, they can pull it right into Canvas without having to download, save, upload. They can just pull it right in. So once that integration is made, now you've surfaced that Microsoft application. So even if I were creating an announcement, for example, So I would say, please read this exciting article about cupcakes. And I would have in my toolbar, in addition to my standard tools, that I have any third-party plugins that I've added, like YouTube, Vimeo, Zoom, Microsoft, anything that I've added as a third-party tool, I'll be able to pull that up. And again, navigate my file. So it's a nice integration. I can really access that file portal anywhere. So I can pull in that article and attach it right to my announcement.
Quick question from online. Sorry, I'm chopping. Can you demo building a quiz from scratch, how quizzes will come over from the legacy, and to demonstrate the multi-tool, the last question from an adjunct who uses Canvas at UNL? Sorry.
What is the multi? What is the multi thing?
Yeah, I don't know, and I believe that user stepped out.
You said cooperation with pieces.
Oh, yes, sorry, thank you for reminding me. So back on the collaborations tool, now that I've authenticated through 365. So it's pulling in my course roster. And so at the top I choose, what do I want to build? Do I want a Word document, Excel, or PowerPoint? Okay. What do I want to create the document? So now this is writing to Office. So this is creating the document in the
user's office.
Yes. Right. So this is my marketing pitch for my Marketing 107 course. And I can do it by group, so I can just pick individual users or my groups. So this is for project group 1. And I might give it to all my project groups. Right?
That's the permission set.
So now these users in these groups have permissions to edit that document. And that's it. And then if the students can either access it here through Canvas, or they can access it from the OneDrive side.
So from Canvas, how does it do?
So it's going to open up my OneDrive in another tab.
Oh, OneDrive and tab. Not
So,
mine.
right. So with the integration for that tool, for the collaborations tool, it's acknowledging your Canvas roster, passing those. I'm sorry?
You just stop the document near the permissions, but you do the rest. And
Yeah, it's setting for the people at home. It's pulling the roster and saying, who of these people do you want access to the document on the OneDrive side?
now, if we do the integration, single sign-on, and our identity provider is Microsoft, do they still have to authenticate here to have this work? The identity that
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure what the layers are for the integration. So the integration, so authentication is authentication into the system. Does this user exist in Canvas? Yes. Are they allowed to access it? Yes. So that's the authentication. The system login is that layer. And then the course layer is access to course created. I'm just walking through it. And then the course layer is access to the roster. And then the individual layer, I'm not 100% sure if that's going to pick up the SSO or if they still have to opt in. That might be a permission setting that is like separate from the auth and then the course.
Is it possible to get an answer?
Well, you could test it. You can set it up yourself because we can't replicate your system here, but we can certainly. You will, yeah. But we can certainly ask about backup services. I can't replicate your internal system.
I was just asking, can we have the actual back-end team, you know, that's possible?
We will ask if they know, but we can also test here locally. Okay. Quizzes. So let's go out to that class that was imported and take a look at what was imported. Quizzes. We have some quizzes. Yay. A lot of quizzes. Holy cow. The metadata is showing me point values, numbers of questions, the due dates. So these are all unpublished, they come over, thank you very much. These came over all unpublished, which is this little circle slash here. So a workflow for the migration piece would be to review those quizzes, preview them, is this correct, and this come over correct, and then publish it, and then it's ready to go. So I would look over, I would open up one of these quizzes, here are my instructions, I can see all the settings here, there's no time limit, it allows multiple attempts, it keeps the highest score, students can view the correct answers, so it's pulling a lot of those settings that were used when it was created. I can go into preview mode up at the top here and preview what the questions look like. They look like they're pretty clean. The author of the quiz might know better. Or I could edit and go into full edit mode. So if I see an issue or I want to do any editing whatsoever, I can go with edit mode.
What kind of question styles do you have?
Good question. So the question types are currently true, false, fill in the blank, multiple choice, multiple answers, Dropbox. Pretty standard set of questions in the quizzing tool that you will currently see during this evaluation. We are building a new quizzing engine called Quizzes Next, which has new and different interface and new additional question types in it. So based on your timeline, you would probably be working with a new quizzing tool. It's just not available to you yet. It's built, it's developed. We have schools, colleges, and universities, as well as K-12 school districts using it this semester right now to kind of beta test it, do load testing and that kind of thing. If you can imagine 122,000 K-12 students all taking a test at the same time, great beta test. So we're putting that through its paces this semester, and then it will be released fully, what we call general availability later this year.
And what kind of question types are on that?
I can actually pull that up.
And
Yeah,
is
let's
it
show it.
priced separately?
No, it'll be included.
It's included in Canvas.
Everything that you've seen today is included in Canvas. I don't think we've talked about anything other than premium.
Other than premium, yeah.
And what is your name, so we can get an answer to your question? So what we can do, either during lunch or when I have 5 minutes, I'll just chat, use Slack, so I'll just Slack people. It's all we can get an answer for you. I think I didn't mean to deflect the answer. I think a real test is probably the best
That was
test.
actually my question.
Yeah.
Can you ask when you have time, just email us back?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I just think I was a campus technologist, and I'm just like, yeah, you can tell me whatever you want. I want to see it. So I always like go for the live test. It's like the best test. So for the new quizzing tool, totally different interface. It's all refreshed. So I have on the sidebar here, I have all of my questions in this sample quiz. It's just a sample quiz I use in demos. So I have all my different questions over there, which I can drag and drop. Hooray for drag and drop, getting modern technology. So I can reorder, the questions or whatever. I have a few tools up at the top. So my settings, this is where I set my settings for the quiz, including, like, if I allow multiple attempts, I can say they have to wait a certain amount of time, so they're not just, can I do a better score? Can I do a better score over and over? Set required times. I have my reports. So quiz and item analysis. How did each individual student do on a per question basis? What were the averages and the calculations? Is there a quiz question in there where all of my highest performing students did horribly? Can I throw that question out? All of that kind of crazy data is in there. And then I could moderate. So I would be able to see all the different students attempt. If I need to grant extra time or attempts to individual students, I can certainly do that. So those are just the basic settings. Let's go back to build. So we have the standard question types, multiple choice, true, false, but some of the new sexier ones that we've built in tap into Bloom's higher order thinking, right? So rather than just recall which of these belong in the set, which of them belong in these two sets, let's order them or separate them out or categorize them. So categorization as a question type is new, and I can have different distractors in there. So I can have different distractors in there, build that categorization set. For something like computer science, where they have to like code something, they have text entry, or maybe it's an essay response. Hotspot question, you add an image, you highlight the spot, right? And that's the correct answer as long as they click in that region. Basic true false. I love this ordering one. Do you like my hokey pokey question? So you know, they get all the distractors and they have to put them in the correct order again. Just try to tap into those, you know, not just recall, but actually application of that knowledge in some way, or application of that information. Fill in the blank, multiple choice, matching, and yes, these work beautifully on mobile devices. So students with their thumb on their phone can drag and drop and order these things around, which is really great. And this is probably my favorite addition, and this actually came from our nursing and health sciences programs. So they wanted to see something like a patient case over here, or diagnosis, and then answer questions about it. And you can use any of the standard question types over here. So we call this a stimulus. So you put in this stimulus, this could be a body of literature, and they're answering questions, deciphering, interpreting the text. It could be an image, like an engine in auto shop, and then they have to answer questions about it. So stimulus is a great new question type. So, and you can show the stimulus and then show one question at a time, or you can show stimulus and have all the questions available at the same time, which is great for like case-based learning, right? So they see the patient case and they answer all these questions. Pretty cool. And the authoring of these question types is pretty simple. I'm just going to click this plus sign here. I just choose the question type that I want: categorization, file upload, formula, matching, multiple choice, ordering, true, false, numeric. And we'll probably be adding more question types over time. As I mentioned, we're doing load testing and beta testing right now. But once it's done, it's in general release, we can iterate on it. And then the stimulus type. And the interface is pretty simple.
Can you make it so that they can't go back?
Yes,
questions?
you can lock it.
Questions done and
Lock to show what it's
shuffle throughout and all that kind of stuff, so they're all different.
Use question banks. You can also give individual points per answer. So maybe one answers 3, one answers 2, one answers 1. You can do that. You can also do shuffle answers, but lock answers, so you can do all or none of the above as well. So that response is at the bottom. So you have all those features.
Okay. And you can do like a select all and apply kind of thing, where like they add like the multiple choice with it.
Multiple answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it work with blank outline?
We do have an integration with response block outline. Yep.
So for the multiple choice, I chose this type to demonstrate the options that Sean was showing. So I can shuffle my choices. I could even lock one, so it's always at the bottom. So if I have all of the above or none of the above, I can lock it so that's always at the bottom. And I can vary points by answer. So I could say, if they answered yes, it's worth 2 points or 3 points. Sometimes it's 1 point, no, 0 points.
You need a negative answer. Negative points was really like.
As I say, can you do where they have to get all of those pieces to get, like it's all or nothing, and they either get all of the answers, or even if they miss one of those, it's 0.
That would be multiple answer.
Yeah. So right now, I'm going to go through and integrate all of those.
So the way that we build Canvas, and we're at time, so I just want to kind of close on this concept. The way that we build Canvas is according to industry standards. And the industry technology standard for quizzes is called QTI, Question and Test Interoperability. It's been around for 20 some odd years. We didn't invent it. It's been around. Publishers usually export to QTI. LMSs usually export to QTI, and we accept QTI. Okay, tools like Respondus that are quiz authoring tools like Respondus export to QTI, which we can import. We're not going to import a Word document. It's too complicated. We need some built-in standards. So when you're thinking about importing quizzes or question banks from other tools, QTI is the format where we say that's what we'll take. So that's in both the new quizzing engine as well as the old one. QTI is the standard. So as you saw, we took them from Moodle, no problem, because Moodle packages to QTI.
We're right at time. We certainly want to be respectful. I'm sure some people are teaching. We have a session coming up on IT. We'll dive into some of the deeper details like integrations and whatnot. We've got the student success session at 11:30, I think. And then there'll be another Q&A session, so in the afternoon between 1 and 2, and we can always dive into new things. Any other questions to wrap up? One more?
Yeah, just if you could go back to the chat.
I think this is the other,
Yeah, let's do it.
other course. Yeah. There it is. Top.
Thanks. Lunchtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so from this screen, when you cannot attach files, you and your students.
There's no attached file here.
And is there a way to prevent dilution of students?
A way to prevent, I don't believe so. I think users have the ability to delete their own messages.
I think only teachers do.
Yes.
Only teachers can moderate. The students can't delete messages. The teachers can.
No, can we as admins prevent even the instructors from releasing messages?
They want the archive. You want
The archive piece. That